Have you ever felt, completely pulled in two directions about money? Like one part of you thinks, play it safe, get the stable job.
Save every penny.
Right. But then there's this other voice, maybe it's louder sometimes, saying, take risks, start something, invest.
Oh, absolutely. It feels like you're getting conflicting advice constantly. It's confusing.
It really is. And it perfectly sets up what we're diving into today. We're exploring the core ideas from, well, a hugely influential book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Ah, yes. The story of Robert Kiyosaki growing up in Hawaii with these two very different father figures shaping his views on money.
Exactly. So our mission here is to unpack how those two perspectives, those two dads, didn't just offer different advice. They actually led to totally different financial lives.
We want to pull out those key bits of wisdom, the ideas that might just change how you think about wealth, about work, maybe even spark some of those aha moments for you.
Okay, so let's get into it. This tale of two fathers. Robert had his actual dad, who he called Poor Dad, and his best friend's dad, his rich dad.
And the fascinating thing is, both were smart guys. Both worked hard, successful in their own ways, really.
But their views on money, night and day, completely different philosophies.
And that's the crux of it, isn't it? How their fundamental beliefs shaped everything. Let's take Poor Dad first. He was the educated one.
Highly educated, yeah. Had a PhD, a good, secure job in the education system, respectable.
His advice was what most of us hear, right?
Yeah.
Go to school, get good grades.
Find a safe, secure job. That was the mantra. Stability was everything.
He worked hard for his money, paid his bills like clockwork, believed owning a home was like the best investment you could make.
And talking about money.
Hmm.
Kind of taboo. Impolite. Job security was the goal.
And yet, despite all that education, that steady job, the sources say he worried a lot about bills, about money.
It's kind of unsettling, isn't it? It suggests that the usual path, good grades, safe job, doesn't automatically equal financial peace.
Not at all. The system he believed in didn't quite deliver that financial freedom he probably hoped for.
Okay, now contrast that with Rich Dad. No fancy degrees here. Didn't even finish 8th grade, apparently.
But he understood money on a gut level. He focused on financial education, learning how the system actually works.
And his core advice to Robert, it was pretty radical compared to Poor Dad.
Completely. Don't work for money. Let money work for you.
Okay, let's unpack that. Let money work for you. What did that mean in practice for Rich Dad?
It meant thinking beyond the paycheck. It was about building assets, things that generate income. He was into real estate, businesses.
Right, and his mindset was different too. Poor Dad might say, I can't afford that.
A rich dad would ask.
How can I afford it? It flips the script from limitation to possibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He pushed Robert to think critically, to understand risk, calculated risk, that is, and aim for financial independence, not just, climbing the corporate ladder.
It's a total shift from just being a consumer to actually creating wealth.
So you have young Robert seeing these two paths laid out before him.
Yeah, this fork in the road, the traditional
yeah.
way. School, job, paycheck, retirement, or this other path.
The path of entrepreneurship, assets, really understanding money, financial literacy.
And he made a choice. A pretty bold one for a kid, really. He decided to follow Rich Dad's lead.
And that decision changed everything for him. He had this big realization. Schools teach us a lot of things, but not about money.
It's a huge gap, isn't it?
Massive. And he saw that so many people are financially trapped simply because they never learned the basics, like the difference between an asset and a liability. They don't get how money flows.
This is key. Rich Dad taught him not just to earn, but to build a future by owning things that make money while you sleep.
Assets, businesses, real estate that pays you rent, stocks that pay dividends, things that put money in your pocket.
Not things that take it out. But the book makes it clear this wasn't some easy get-rich-quick scheme.
Oh, definitely not. It was a long road. He talks about doubts, mistakes, fear. It was challenging.
And Rich Dad's advice could sound, well, almost dangerous to some people.
It's like that quote. The most dangerous advice you can give a child is go to school, get good grades, and look for a safe, secure job.
Whoa. That directly challenges the foundation of what most parents tell their kids. It questions the whole idea of security.
It really does. It flips the script entirely.
So while other kids were maybe worrying about SATs, Robert was asking different kinds of questions.
Yeah, like what actually makes an asset go up in value? Or how do I create passive income?
And the big one, why don't schools teach this stuff? It shows that fundamental shift in his thinking.
And that shift started super early. Rich Dad's first lesson, Robert was only 9.
What happened?
He had Robert and his friend Mike work in his convenience store for free.
For free. Wow. I bet Robert wasn't thrilled.
Probably not. He thought it was unfair, but Rich Dad used it to teach something powerful.
Which was?
He said something like, life doesn't pay you what you think you're worth. Life pays you what you negotiate and what you learn.
Oof. That's heavy for a 9-year-old, but profound.
Totally. It was this moment where Robert realized, okay, it's not just about working hard. It's about understanding systems, understanding money, leverage.
And Rich Dad challenged them, right? Use your mind.
To create money, not just your hands. Don't just trade time for dollars.
And they actually did it. They didn't just listen. They acted.
Yeah. That comic book library story is great. They gathered old comics, set up shop in Mike's basement.
And charged admission. Their first taste of making money, not by working hourly for someone. Leveraging an idea, an asset.
Exactly. Their minds, not just their time. A tiny business, but a huge lesson.
So, as Robert got older, he kept absorbing these ideas. He wasn't just focused on school grades. He was studying real estate, investing.
He was climbing the financial ladder, you could say, not just the academic or corporate one.
And this helped him see what Rich Dad called the rat race.
Ah, yes. That cycle where you earn more, so you spend more. Your lifestyle inflates with your income.
You're running faster on the hamster wheel, basically. Paycheck to paycheck, even with a good salary. No real assets being built.
It's exhausting, and it's where so many people find themselves stuck.
Rich Dad also pointed out something else really interesting about taxes.
Oh, yeah, the difference between employees and business owners. It's significant.
For most employees, taxes come out first, right? Before you even get your hands on the money.
But for business owners, often the money comes into the business. Legitimate expenses are paid or deducted.
And then they pay taxes on what's left. It gives them more control, more ability to reinvest pre-tax money back into building wealth.
It's a structural advantage, really, often overlooked.
And then there's the big one, the idea that your house is not an asset.
Controversial, still is today. It goes against decades of advice. Your home is your biggest investment.
But Rich Dad's definition was strict. Does it put money in your pocket or take it out?
And your primary residence. Mortgage, taxes, insurance, upkeep. It's constantly taking money out. So, by his definition,
It's a liability, purely based on cash flow, not emotion, not tradition.
it's a cold, hard financial perspective.
So Robert started applying this. He didn't just learn theories. He started small, right?
Yeah.
Buying rental properties.
Yeah, low-cost ones at first, using borrowed money, leverage wisely. He saw mistakes not as failures, but as learning opportunities.
Each success, however small, was a step towards that financial freedom Rich Dad talked about.
And by his early 30s, Robert looked around and saw something clearly.
What was that?
That so many hardworking, smart people were financially stuck. Not because they were lazy or unintelligent,
But because
they were following the wrong script, an ineffective financial plan they'd absorbed without realizing it.
it wasn't about effort. It was about the approach, the financial programming almost.
Right, and he pinpointed these crucial skills that people just weren't being taught.
Like what? What was missing?
How to actually read a financial statement. You know, income, expenses, assets, liabilities, how to manage debt strategically, not just avoid it or drown in it.
How to invest in things like real estate or businesses.
And maybe the biggest one, how to handle the fear. The fear of losing money that paralyzes so many people from taking action.
These are fundamental life skills, really. And they're mostly absent from school curriculums.
Totally absent. And seeing this gap, understanding why people struggle, that's what pushed him to write Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
It wasn't meant to be just another finance book. It was his story, the lessons from his two dads.
And it just struck a chord globally. It became this massive wake-up call for people who felt like something was missing in their own financial understanding.
Okay, so if we boil it all down, what are the core takeaways from Robert's journey from the book?
Well, the first big one is, the rich don't work for money. They make money work for them. It's about ownership and systems.
Second, financial education is crucial, maybe even more crucial than traditional academic education if your goal is wealth building.
Third, and this is central, you absolutely have to know the difference between an asset and a liability, and then consistently buy assets.
Things that generate income. Fourth,
Start young if you can. The earlier you learn these principles, the more powerful compounding becomes. Time is your friend.
and the fifth lesson,
It's often fear and self-doubt that hold people back more than a lack of opportunity. Mindset is key. Overcoming that fear is critical.
So wrapping this up, Rich Dad Poor Dad isn't just telling you how to get rich. It's really a story about how mindset, taking calculated risks, and specific financial knowledge can fundamentally change your life's trajectory.
Exactly. Robert Kiyosaki applied these lessons, became a multimillionaire, a huge author, an educator, not by following the standard path, but by thinking differently, by acting differently.
His story really highlights how powerful questioning conventional wisdom can be, especially when it comes to money.
Definitely. It encourages you to look critically at the rules you've been taught.
So the final thought for you, listening right now, considering Robert's journey and those two contrasting dads, what assumptions about money, about success, about security might you be carrying around that are maybe worth questioning or even redefining in your own life?